Part 32. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 311. A bad premonition suddenly arose in my heart. Su Tianxian said to me, "Get out of here quickly, he has awakened the lonely ghosts living in this town. They will target you and attack you." After hearing these words, I didn't dare to neglect and said to Su Tianxian, "Master, be careful." Su Tianxian nodded lightly, then waved the jingxiao in his hand and struck the golden talisman in the air. Immediately afterwards, a dazzling golden light burst out from the magic circle. I took steps and ran towards the door of Paramount. I rushed out of Paramount, thinking about the map and the ancient building in my mind. I looked around, spotted a road and ran over. Su Tianxian was right, the ghosts in the entire town had been awakened. They no longer do the same thing or action over and over again. Instead, it was coming in the direction where I was. These lonely ghosts are not very powerful, but there are many of them. You must know that the entire Daowen town has existed 3 times in history, and the population of these 3 times was very large. Especially in modern times, the number of people has exceeded 300,000. Calculating this, the number of lonely ghosts in this small town is even more unimaginable. I ran wildly, and the scenery on both sides kept changing, from the 1950s to the 1960s, to modern times, to ancient times. The small roads in the whole town are crisscrossed and extending in all directions. It is not easy to find the road. But after I kept searching, I finally found it. I ran wildly along the path, the sound of ghosts crying and wolf howling following me like a shadow. Along the way, I held Lei Ju in my right hand, so these lonely ghosts did not dare to approach. However, there were many fierce ghosts with serious grievances. When they saw Lei Ju, they still rushed over. Helpless, I could only beat him to pieces. I don't know how long I ran, but I suddenly found that the sound of ghosts crying and howling in my ears gradually disappeared. I slowed down and looked around. The ghost that had been following me had disappeared. I breathed a long sigh of relief, and suddenly saw an ancient pavilion out of the corner of my eye. The pavilion has 3 floors and is very magnificent and exquisite. Found it? I took steps towards the attic. But after taking a few steps, a black shadow flashed before my eyes. I was slightly startled and looked in the direction where the black shadow disappeared. The place where the black shadow disappeared was at a corner. Under the moonlight, I could clearly see a pale little foot exposed from the corner. I had some doubts in my heart and walked towards the corner. Then another black shadow flashed by, and this time I saw it clearly. It turned out to be a little girl. I chased the little girl in the direction where she disappeared. At this moment, I suddenly felt as if something was hanging on the corner of my clothes behind my back. I looked back, and it didn't matter. It made me break into a cold sweat. I saw groups of boys and girls standing behind me. Their little faces were pale, with blood-red blush on both sides, and a strange and sinister smile appeared on their faces. I kept backing away, but these boys and girls didn't step forward, just stared at me silently. I calmed down and began to look at these boys and girls. I suddenly discovered that these boys and girls were dressed exactly like the boys and girls in the general's tomb. These children looked at me with their big eyes. One of them stretched out his hand and said to me, "Are you Lu Su?" I was slightly stunned and asked, "How do you know me?" The little girl blinked and said, "Madam told us in her dream. She said you would come and rescue us." I suddenly understood, nodded towards these boys and girls, and said, "I'm here to rescue you, but I need to do something there." I looked toward the attic. When the boys and girls heard that I was going to the attic, they looked shocked and said quickly, "No. It's too dangerous there." Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 312. I looked towards the attic. The 3-story attic did look a bit eerie under the moonlight. But I didn't feel a strong yin energy. I looked at the boys and girls in front of me and asked, why? The girl who was talking to me just now stepped forward and held my hand, saying, brother, you must not go. That attic is where the mayor lives. It is very dangerous and terrifying. When I heard the word mayor, I frowned slightly. I originally thought that the alchemist was the mayor of this town, but now it seems that I thought too much. Is the alchemist just the one behind the plan? I shook my head at these boys and girls and said, I have a reason to go there. You guys wait for me here. I will be back in a moment. The Virgin held my hand tightly and refused to let go. She hesitated and said repeatedly, then, let's go in with you. We can also help you. I looked at these children, hesitated, and nodded. In this way, led by these boys and girls, I entered the attic. Entering the attic, you will be greeted by a mysterious and ancient atmosphere. The attic building is very simple, and the style should be from the Han Dynasty. The first floor is unremarkable, with only a few cubicles and a few pieces of wooden furniture. After the boys and girls entered here, their expressions became a little frightened, and their little bodies kept shaking. What are you afraid of? I asked. The little girl raised her head and looked at me. Just as she was about to say something, I heard a loud noise from the stairs. I was startled by the sudden noise and looked over quickly. It didn't matter when he saw it, he suddenly broke into a cold sweat. I saw a child's head rolling down from the second floor. The head jumped and flipped on the stairs. Wherever it passed, blood stained a scarlet path. One head fell, followed by a second and a third. In addition, there were other stumps and broken arms that rolled down from the second floor. The entire staircase was stained blood red. Seeing this scene, I was horrified. I looked at the Virgin and asked what was going on. The Virgin opened her mouth, but she didn't know how to explain. She hesitated for a long time and said, brother, go and see for yourself. I nodded and came to the stairs. Looking at the blood on the floor, I felt a little sick. I stepped onto the stairs and headed towards the second floor. The entire staircase was stained red with blood, and it was sticky and uncomfortable to walk on. I quickened my pace, wanting to leave this disgusting place as quickly as possible. Soon, I came to the second floor. The furnishings on the second floor are similar to those on the first floor. The only difference is that there are more wooden beds here. These wooden beds were arranged neatly like beds in a morgue and covered with black cloth. I came to the wooden bed, stretched out my hand, and lifted the cloth. When I saw the situation on the bed, I was stunned for a moment. There were actually baby corpses lying on the bed. These are not the most important things. The most important thing is that the umbilical cords of these babies have not been cut. I looked along the umbilical cord, and my pupils trembled instantly. On the entire second floor, there were about 60 baby corpses, all of which had uncut umbilical cords. These umbilical cords spread vertically and horizontally, all the way to the third floor. I squatted down and looked carefully at the umbilical cords. It didn't matter if I didn't look at them. I was shocked when I looked at them. These umbilical cords are squirming, as if something is scurrying inside. I looked at the umbilical cord for a long time, took a breath, and blurted out. Something sucking the nutrients out of these babies. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 313. I stood up and looked towards the third floor, my expression became very solemn. What is there on the third floor? Thinking of this, I no longer hesitated and walked towards the third floor. Unlike the stairs to the second floor, the stairs leading to the third floor were covered with umbilical cords. These umbilical cords are crisscrossed, with white hair growing on the surface, and the umbilical cords are crawling crazily, like snakes swimming around. I took a deep breath and carefully looked for a place to stay. I dare not touch these umbilical cords for fear of disturbing the thing upstairs. After a while, I came to the third floor. I held my breath and stuck my head out. The third floor is also full of wooden beds, and the umbilical cords extending from the wooden beds lead to one place. That's the wooden bed directly in front of you. There was a blood-red gauze hanging on the wooden bed, and I could only vaguely see a figure inside. At this moment, the 5-God token around my waist became restless. I took off the token and saw that the 5 Gods token was glowing with blood-red light. The God of Void Death reacted. That means that the person on the bed is another evil spirit. Top 10 evil defeats. I hung the 5 Gods token around my waist again. Suddenly, there was a strong wind on the third floor, and all the umbilical cords were squirming wildly. Some of them almost made me trip. A cold voice came from the bed. Who? As soon as I finished speaking, a powerful yin energy rushed towards me from the bed. Seeing that I was discovered, I stopped hiding and jumped out from the stairwell. The dark wind howled on the bed, blowing the blood-red curtains. When the curtain turned, I saw a person. It was a woman with pale skin and skinny bones. I took a deep breath and said, no nonsense. I want to put this evil spirit into the 5 Gods token, then find Su Tianxian, and let's leave here together. I picked up the 9 layers thunder art and rushed towards the woman with a single stride. The umbilical cord under my feet seemed to be alive, rushing towards me like a tide. They stood in front of me, forming a bloody wall of flesh. I pinched Lei Ju and blasted towards the wall of flesh. Thunder and lightning flashed, and the lightning arc instantly spread to the wall of flesh. Something surprised me. This seemingly soft wall of flesh turned out to be so strong. With a serious look on my face, I activated my soul-stealing blood hand. Scarlet blood instantly soaked my right arm. The entire right arm was directly submerged into the wall of flesh. But if you want to break the wall of flesh, you can't just use the soul-stealing blood hand. I pinched the 9 layers of thunder technique, and the bloody thunder technique erupted directly from the wall of flesh, instantly shattering the wall of flesh. Minced meat and blood splattered out. I stood firm and attacked towards the wooden bed. But what I didn't expect was that the umbilical cords that I had broken would be reconnected and restored to their original state. Those umbilical cords were attacking me again. I can only avoid it in a hurry. The umbilical cord is like a venomous snake, attacking so fiercely that I can't resist it. At this moment, the umbilical cord suddenly stopped attacking. The woman on the bed slowly stretched out her legs. She stood firm and leaned out her whole body. It was this move that allowed me to see clearly the appearance of this woman. The woman was wearing a blood-colored red robe, and her exposed legs and arms were all skin and bones, with pale skin clinging to the bones. Not just her legs and arms, but her face. The skin is close to the bones, and the whole face is like a skin skeleton. Her bloody red robe was covered with umbilical cord, and she looked very strange and terrifying. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 314. The woman's eyes were dull and numb. She looked at me indifferently and said in a cold tone, "A living person? Just add some nutrition to my child, he is about to be born." The woman stretched out her hand, her eyes suddenly filled with doting look. She stretched out her skinny right hand and gently touched her slightly bulging belly. I dare not be careless and pay attention to my surroundings. The gods are very powerful. If it weren't for Xiang Yi's help last time, I wouldn't have been able to conquer the Void God. Sudden. The umbilical cord under the woman's bloody robe squirmed crazily and attacked me again. I can only fight with thunder in my hands. I can't draw the talisman in the air like Su Tianxian, so I can only use Lei Ju and soul-seizing blood hand. These umbilical cords are moving extremely fast and have even produced after images. I raised the thunderbolt in my hand and shattered one umbilical cord after another. But after these umbilical cords are crushed, they will heal and recover in an instant. This is simply an existence that has no solution. Just when I was in despair, a voice sounded in my ears. Big brother. The weak point of these umbilical cords are those babies. I looked for my voice and saw the Virgin shouting at me at the top of the stairs. I was slightly startled, and quickly changed the target of my attack, attacking the babies lying on the wooden bed on the third floor. Thunder and lightning roared, overturning the wooden bed. The baby rolled on the bed. I grabbed the umbilical cord connected to the baby, and with the help of the soul-stealing blood hand, I cut it directly. The severed umbilical cord seems to be alive and wants to be connected to the baby's belly button. I lifted my foot and stepped on it directly. It was at this time that the woman suddenly became crazy. You deserve to die. You deserve to die. The woman's long hair is flying wildly behind her. Suddenly, I heard a child laughing from behind me. I turned around suddenly and saw all the babies on the wooden bed behind me standing on the ground. An eerie smile appeared on his pale face. This scene made my scalp numb. Go. My children. Kill this guy. The woman screamed behind me. The corners of these babies' mouths raised slightly, and they let out gushing laughter. Their figures flashed and disappeared from where I was. The next moment, I felt a chill in my back and a sharp pain. I gasped as my back was scratched by these babies. I stretched out my right hand, superimposed the thunder technique to the second level, and then blasted towards the black shadow that was running around me crazily. But every wave of his hand was in vain. There were heart-wrenching pains all over my body. If this continues, I will definitely die here. I looked around and finally focused on the woman. This woman is the source of everything. As long as this woman is eliminated, this matter will definitely be solved. I quickly ran towards the woman. The babies in the room were jumping up and down, and the umbilical cords formed roadblocks and huge fishing nets in front of me. These brats are so tough. There is no way to get close to a woman. What to do? Suddenly my eyes lit up and I thought of a way. But at the same time, I also had some hesitation in my heart. This method would completely kill the enemy by 1000 and damage myself by 800. Just as I hesitated, the babies pounced on me again. I felt a chill in my heart and tried my best. I slowly closed my left eye and focused all my mental energy on my right eye. My right eye is turning dark at a speed visible to the naked eye. Suddenly, black barriers surrounded the entire room. Sky Coffin. Author, Qingnian Wanbao. Chapter 315. I already have some idea of what my right eye is capable of. But now I can't use it for too long. It must be resolved quickly. Otherwise, you will definitely die if you are attacked by the evil spirit later. Thinking of this, I no longer hesitated and stretched out my right hand to hold it in the air. The black barrier instantly shrank towards me. The powerful crushing force directly crushed those ghost babies until they were stunned. I picked up the 9 layers of thunder dew again, blood-colored lightning burst out in my palm, and I blasted towards the woman. Thunder and lightning were released, flying in the air like lightning. My right hand did not fall, and continued to control Lei Ju's direction. This is the power of my right eye. I can manipulate the power generated in the black barrier at will. In addition, as long as I am strong, I can also control other people's moves. Just like the last time I defended Huaxiu from thunder. I used the ability of my right eye to forcefully separate the sky thunder into a branch. Bloody thunder and lightning struck rapidly in the air, rushing straight towards the woman. Everywhere he went, the umbilical cords were cut off. When the woman saw the bloody lightning coming, she quickly waved her hands. The remaining ghost babies came from all directions and stood in front of her. My expression condensed, and I stretched out my hand and shook it towards the ghost infant. In an instant, a giant black hand appeared in front of the ghost baby. I was slightly stunned. Was this what I condensed in this space? Who cares? I controlled the giant black hand and punched through the wall of flesh formed by the ghost babies. Then, I manipulated the giant black hand again and grabbed the umbilical cord under the woman's bloody robe. Then use all your strength to tear it apart. The woman looked horrified and screamed, "No! No! My child is about to be born. It's about to be born." At this moment, endless pain spread from the bottom of my heart to all my limbs. The evil spirit comes back. I got chills all over and my whole body couldn't help but tremble. I gritted my teeth and looked at the woman. "Cannot give up. If you give up, you will definitely die." I yelled. My veins were exposed, and I used all my strength to pull the woman's umbilical cord. Just when I couldn't hold on anymore, suddenly there was a breaking sound in the air. Then, the black barrier shattered like glass, and my legs weakened and I fell to my knees. I looked at the woman and saw that the umbilical cord under the woman's bloody robe had been torn off by me. And the situation under her bloody robe also came into my eyes. I saw that the woman's belly was hollowed out, but there was a small baby curled up there. This baby feels very dangerous to me, extremely dangerous. The woman looked at her belly, and then tears flowed down her face. "Just a little bit. Just a little bit closer. You can be born." The woman fell to her knees and cried loudly. Suddenly, there was a crunching sound in the air. The sound was like someone chewing something crazily. "Ah!" The woman let out a miserable cry, and her whole body began to twitch violently. Her expression changed from sadness at first to pain now, and then she burst into laughter. "Good boy. Do you want to eat Mom? Will you survive if you eat Mom?" When I heard this sentence, my pupils dilated and contracted instantly. The woman raised a wry smile, and then said, "If that's the case, then just eat Mom." As soon as he finished speaking, the sound of chewing in the air became louder and louder. I was shocked when I saw this scene. Woman is one of the top 10 evil spirits among the 5 evil spirits. She will go to hell after death. If you enter hell, you will still experience the same encounter as last time. Therefore, I must include the woman in the 5 gods token before she is alive. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Ching Nian Wanbao. Chapter 316. I endured the pain from the evil spirit and took off the 5 gods token. Then he threw it towards the woman. While the token was traveling through the air, I squeezed the secrets with both hands and silently recited in my mind the method to activate the 5 gods token. The 5 gods token floats above the woman's head, spinning and staying. Suddenly, a beam of golden light emerged from the token and enveloped the woman. When the woman saw this scene, her expression changed drastically. "No, no, no." As the woman let out heart-rending roars, the 5 gods token produced a powerful suction force and sucked the woman into it. The woman's roar gradually weakened and finally disappeared completely. Seeing this, I breathed a long sigh of relief. After absorbing the woman, the token fell to the ground with a clatter. My vision gradually blurred, and I knew I wouldn't be able to survive for long and would soon pass out. Just when I was about to fall into unconsciousness, an inexplicable warmth surged through my body. The 8-character Blood Evil. Su Tianxian once again took on the evil spirit for me. My body gradually recovered. Just as I struggled to stand up, a pair of legs caught my eye. My eyes slowly moved up, and when I saw the person coming clearly, I froze on the spot. It's an alchemist. The alchemist held the 5 god token in his hand and stood quietly in front of me. I was shocked and stepped back, keeping distance from the alchemist. "Your Majesty, I didn't expect that you really conquered the 10 evils." The alchemist's voice was full of teasing. I looked at him calmly, but my heart was already filled with huge waves. How did this alchemist come here? How is Su Tianxian? The alchemist suddenly stretched out his hand, grabbed my neck, and lifted me up forcefully. I felt breathless and dizzy. Just when I was about to suffocate to death, I suddenly remembered the voice of the alchemist in my ears. Although I want to kill you, I can't, and of course you can't kill me. As soon as I finished speaking, I felt like I was being thrown out. My back hit the wall so hard that I felt like my insides were being thrown out. The alchemist stared at me for a while, then came to me. I was breathing heavily, and the side effects of the evil energy had not dissipated. I now had no strength at all. Just when I thought the alchemist was going to kill me again. What he did next was very confusing to me. The alchemist actually took off my clothes. Then he changed my clothes in front of me. The alchemist dropped his black robe on the ground and turned his head to look at me. I still can't see what the alchemist really looks like, because there was a faint layer of black mist lingering on his face. He snorted and walked towards the second floor. I kept taking deep breaths, intending to relieve my fatigue. At this moment, a small hand stretched out in front of me and helped me up. "Big brother, I will take you away." I glanced at the Virgin and nodded. Just like that, the Virgin helped me towards the second floor. My heart is extremely heavy at this moment. The 5 gods token was actually taken away by the alchemist. All the hard work was in vain. When I came to the stairwell on the first floor, I suddenly heard Su Tianxuan's voice. "How are you doing?" Su Tianxuan's voice was full of concern. This made me slightly stunned. Su Tianxian seems to only treat me like this, right? He treats other people coldly. I quickened my pace and came to the first floor. When I saw the face of the person talking to Su Tianxian, I was stunned for a moment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qingnian Wanbao. Chapter 317. There was a person standing in front of Su Tianxian. That man wore my clothes, and his facial features and body shape turned out to be exactly the same as mine, including the temperament exuded by the body. The man scratched his head, smiled slightly, and said, "Master, I'm fine." Seeing this scene, I felt a surge of anger in my heart for no reason. I know who this person is without even thinking about it. He is the alchemist just now. I yelled at Su Tianxian, "Master! I'm here." Su Tianxian was stunned and looked over following my voice. When she saw me, a look of doubt appeared on her eyebrows. She looked at the alchemist and then at me, her eyes still very confused. I was a little anxious. When I came to Su Tianxian, I was about to say something, but I saw the alchemist standing in front of Su Tianxian and said to me warily, "What do you want to do?" I looked at the alchemist coldly and said sternly, "Stop pretending to me. I am the real Lu Su. You are the alchemist." With that said, I turned around, turned my back to Su Tianxian, and said, "Master, this is the 8-character blood evil you branded on me." When Su Tianxian saw the blood words behind me, he was slightly startled, then his face turned cold, and he struck towards the alchemist. The alchemist dodged and distanced himself from us. A playful smile appeared on his lips, he shrugged helplessly and said, "What a pity, he was discovered." The alchemist's face was once again shrouded in black mist. Su Tianxian protected me behind him and looked at him coldly. "Master, he took away the 5 gods token." Anger danced between Su Tianxuan's brows, presumably because of what happened just now that made her angry. She drew out Jingxiao and attacked the alchemist without saying a word. The alchemist responded calmly, dodging while saying, "Don't be so hasty." Su Tianxuan's moves were fatal, and the alchemist also used them as he saw them. The two of them were inseparable from each other. I suddenly noticed that Su Tianxuan's movements were a little slow and his body was a little tired. Seeing this scene, I felt a little guilty. It must be because I just activated the 8-character blood evil spirit to bear the evil spirit for me. The battle between the two men continued, and Su Tianqian gradually gained the upper hand. The alchemist showed a flaw. Su Tianqian caught it, stretched out his hand and grabbed the alchemist's waist. Suddenly, a powerful yin energy erupted from the stairs behind me. It was this yin qi that affected Su Tianxian's movements, causing the attack to fail. Wow wow wow! Suddenly a child's cry of grief echoed in the stairwell. Su Tianqian frowned slightly. The alchemist chuckled and said, "It seems that the show is about to begin." The crying was getting closer and closer, and I subconsciously took a step back. I saw a little baby climbing down the stairs. The baby was covered in blood, his eyes were protruding, and he was exuding strong yin energy. This is the baby in the woman's belly. He survived. When Su Tianqian saw the baby, he ducked in front of me and protected me behind him. The alchemist laughed loudly and walked away. I wanted to chase him, but I was stopped by Su Tianqian. She whispered in my ear, "It's okay. I'll just keep the 5 gods token with him for a while." I nodded. The baby stretched out his little hand and awkwardly touched the next step. As he crawled, he cried, his voice becoming sadder and more penetrating. Soon, he climbed to the first floor, raised his little head, and then looked at me. The originally innocent eyes suddenly turned full of resentment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qingnian Wanbao. Chapter 318. The yin energy emanating from the ghost baby's body was very strong. It is hard to imagine that a newly born ghost baby is so powerful. If he is allowed to continue to grow, he will definitely become a harmful existence in time. The ghost baby suddenly crawled towards me at an extremely fast speed. It was like a big rat moving crazily on the ground. Su Tianxian's expression condensed and he kicked him away. The ghost baby hit the wall hard like a kite with its string broken. Su Tianqian disappeared in a flash, and when he reappeared, he was already in front of the ghost baby. She formed a seal with one hand, her index finger flickering with golden light, and pointed towards the ghost baby's forehead. There was fear in the ghost infant's eyes, and he let out a piercing scream, and powerful yin qi burst out of him like a river bursting its banks. Su Tianxian's movement stagnated, and his index finger could not move forward even an inch. The ghost baby opened its bloody mouth and screamed continuously. My head felt a little dizzy after hearing this. Su Tianqian looked a little serious. She changed the spell in her hand again and attacked the ghost baby. But he never thought that the ghost baby would hit the wall behind him. With a bang, the wall collapsed and the ghost baby rushed out of the attic. Seeing this, Su Tianqian quickly chased out, and I followed closely. The ghost baby was lying on the street, staring at Su Tianqian with a pair of resentful eyes. Su Tianqian took action again, but Guiying didn't hide this time and continued to open his mouth and let out a piercing scream. Suddenly, I felt everything around me shaking slightly. I looked around and was surprised to find that the buildings in the entire town were shaking slightly. The next moment, the sound of ghosts crying and wolf howling exploded from my ears like thunder on the ground. Immediately afterwards, countless black shadows came from all directions. I took a closer look and saw that it was a lonely ghost wandering in the town. They were dressed in different clothes and looked different, and each of them had a look of malice on their face. Their eyes are like poisonous snakes, staring at you, which makes my heart feel chilly and my scalp numb. Could it be that these fierce ghosts came here after being summoned by the ghost baby? The screams of the ghost baby suddenly stopped, the surroundings fell into deathly silence, and the atmosphere was extremely depressing. It seems that the storm is coming and the building is full of wind. I looked around vigilantly, always paying attention to the movements of these lonely ghosts. The ghost baby let out another scream. The screams fell, and a strong dark wind hit. Densely packed lonely ghosts rose up and headed towards me like dark clouds. With a stern look on my face, I picked up the thunderbolt and blasted it towards the lonely ghost closest to me. These wild ghosts surrounded the ghost infant layer by layer, and then launched a sea of ghost tactics against Su Tianxian. Su Tianxian dealt with it calmly. She held Jingxiao in her hand. Wherever the sword fell, Li Gui was instantly shaken. She shuttled among the ghosts and soon came to the ghost baby. But the ghost baby fled instantly. Su Tianxian wanted to chase him, but was blocked by a lonely wild ghost. Helpless, she could only give up the pursuit. Su Tianxian came to my side, took my hand, and protected me behind him. I come. As soon as he finished speaking, Su Tianxian drew a talisman in the air with Jingxiao. This time, the tip of the Jingxiao sword shot out with fiery red light. Su Tianxian's slender jade hands kept dancing in the air, and soon a talisman took shape in the air. She put away her fright, then took hold of determination and pointed at the talisman. In an instant, endless fire burst out from the talisman. The fire burned for thousands of miles, and wherever it went, the evil spirits had nowhere to hide. Su Tianxian took my hand and was about to leave here. I paused and stopped moving forward. Su Tianxian looked at me doubtfully. I replied, Master, we have to take those children away. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qingnian Wanbao. Chapter 319. This is what I promised Huaxiu, and I can't break my promise. Su Tianxian nodded slightly. I shouted to the boys and girls hiding in the attic, quick! Leave with me. The boys and girls heard my call and came to me quickly. Under the leadership of Su Tianxian, we successfully got out of trouble. But I found that the evil ghosts in the whole town had been alerted and were looking for us like crazy. We came to a bridge. I looked around, and after making sure there was no danger, I let out a long sigh of relief. I looked at Su Tianxian and asked, Master, what's going on with that ghost baby? Su Tianxian pondered for a moment and replied, if I guessed correctly, that ghost baby should be the reincarnation of the Ghost King. The Ghost King is reincarnated. No wonder. He can command hundreds of ghosts right after he is born. At this time, the Virgin came to me, pulled the corner of my clothes, and said, I know what happened to him. The girl was very cute, wearing an ancient Luoshang dress and 2 long braids, but her face was a little pale. I motioned to the Virgin to continue. The Virgin seemed a little bad at expressing herself, her beautiful eyebrows furrowed again and again, and after a while she said, those dead babies in the attic are actually my partners. Hearing this sentence, I was slightly stunned. Partner? Does that mean that all those babies are children adopted by Huaxiu? The bad guy took their souls out, put them into the woman's belly, and then let the woman give birth. Then absorbed their souls and nutrients to cultivate the ghost baby. When I heard this, my brows jumped crazily. This alchemist is simply inhumane. If I guessed correctly, the alchemists were cultivating this ghost baby thousands of years ago. He used the flower break to attract thousands of boys and girls, and then half of them stayed in the general's tomb and the other half were brought here. The souls of the boys and girls brought here were extracted, and then the women were allowed to raise ghost fetuses, and then provide nutrition for the ghost baby just now. Moreover, this is only the first batch. I don't know how many children died at the hands of the alchemists. When the Virgin spoke, her expression was a little gloomy and her voice was full of sadness. After hearing this, Su Tianxian sighed slightly. She looked at me and said, the ghost baby just now has a grudge against you. If it is not eradicated in time and allowed to grow, it will cause a lot of trouble in the future. I said, but, he has run away, how should we find him? The Virgin interjected, Big brother. I can find him. I looked at the Virgin with some doubts. The Virgin explained, it tainted my soul, so I was able to find him. I looked at the Virgin quietly, hesitated and said, "Are you willing to help me?" The girl nodded with certainty and said, "I do. Because the eldest brother is a good person. And I also want to see my wife." I nodded, looked at the other boys and girls, and said, "I will send you to reincarnation now. I hope you will be reincarnated into a good family in your next life, and you will not have to suffer such difficulties." After that, I opened the door to the underworld. The gate of Hades opened, the Virgin hugged her companion and said goodbye, and then saw her companion walking into the gate of Hades. After doing this, I looked at Su Tianqian and asked, "Master, what should we do next?" Su Tianqian stretched out his hand, calculated for a while, then raised his head and said to me, "Go find the next evil spirit." "The next evil spirit?" Su Tianqian nodded and said, "As long as we find the ghost baby, we can find the next evil spirit." Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 320. I was slightly taken aback and asked, "Why do you say that?" Su Tianqian explained, "There is a close connection between the 5 evil spirits, and they will react whenever they encounter them. The ghost baby was born from the top 10 evil spirits, and the alchemists have joined forces with the double-faced Buddha. They will definitely use the ghost baby to help them go find the next evil spirit." It dawned on me. Su Tianqian pondered for a moment and said, "Actually, it's a good thing that the 5 gods token is not in your hands, so that others will not have any ideas about you." I very much agree with Su Tianxuan's statement. You know, both the city god and Ksitagarbha are staring at me. The 5 god tokens are a hot potato. There is no need to hold them firmly in your hand before all the gods are gathered. While Su Tianqian and I were talking, there was a lot of yin energy around us. I looked around, and my expression suddenly changed. I saw yin qi rising from all directions, heading towards us overwhelmingly. The evil spirits in the town are approaching us. At the same time, the familiar sound of horns sounded, mixed with the sound of armor scraping, the sound of footsteps. Yin soldiers. I looked at Su Tianqian and asked, "Master, what should we do?" I don't know why, but with Su Tianqian by my side, I have become very opinionated. I have to ask for her opinion on everything. If you think about it carefully, this is probably a kind of dependence. Su Tianqian looked around and finally set his sights on a small wooden boat on the shore. She pointed her slender finger at the small wooden boat and said, "Let's take the boat down the river and leave here." I nodded and hurried to the bedside. As soon as I stepped on the bed, pale human faces appeared on the shore. The faces are densely packed, and every face is full of viciousness and resentment. I felt a little uncomfortable being stared at by these evil spirits. I quickly untied the rope that tied the wooden bed. The moment I untied the rope, all the ghosts on the shore suddenly rose up and rushed toward us. I picked up the oar and paddled as hard as I could. The small wooden boat went down the river and raced on the water. I originally thought that these evil ghosts would stop chasing us when they saw us leaving. But what I never expected was that these ghosts jumped directly from the shore into the water like chicken blood, and then swam towards us. Seeing this, Su Tianqian took out a talisman from his pocket, then silently recited the magic spell and threw it out. The talisman slowly fell into the water, and the next moment, the entire water surface began to roll crazily, forming whirlpools. These evil spirits were instantly drawn into the water. The girl was also very sensible. She picked up the oar on the wooden boat and rowed with me very hard. Su Tianqian stood on the bow of the boat, staring into the distance. Suddenly, I felt something gripping the oar. I was stunned for a moment, then looked toward the water. I saw the water surface churning, as if something was moving in the water. When I looked closely, I saw that they were corpses that had been soaked and turned white. These corpses surrounded the wooden boat, and some stretched out their hands to grasp the oars tightly. Water ghost. It looks like there are a lot of them. I condensed my expression, picked up the thunderdew, and blasted it towards the water. The moment the thunder and lightning touched the water, bursts of water splashed instantly. The thunder and lightning was rapidly transmitted in the water, and the powerful thunder and lightning made the water ghost twitch with electricity. I quickly took out the oar and continued rowing. The small wooden boat moved forward on the water, and after traveling for some distance, a bridge appeared in front of it. But there were countless Yin soldiers wearing armor and holding weapons standing on the bridge.